plan. I'm possessed, and right now, very close to death. I'm writing the only account on Earth and uploading it on randomized Google Pass login so I can never delete it under various titles, so search engine optimization works well. I know some will read this, so out of humanitarianism, I ask one thing if you've seen this. Take note of the hints of my identity below. If I become the Antichrist, you shall be able to uncover. I wrote this before the uprising, and make sure it spreads through the community if you're involved in it. Try your best to share this book and make it known as the standard of information on possession. Humanity depends on it. I don't want this to go to waste despite my resentment. For I wrestle not with spirit against my enemies, but flesh and blood against my enemies. If I'm the Antichrist, I ask you go against me. I'd have wanted this, I promise. I don't really care about physical revenge. The people really deserve it, but the demons would take over in some form or completely. And a spiritual Antichrist is of more danger to mankind than someone like a non-spiritual dictator could have ever been. If you go against me, my life force in its alive state would have asked for such a thing on this condition. But do not hold lucidity against me in basic esotericism. If I have survived, I'd still say it, but anything like Crowley, you have your confirmation. True discernment, please. I have true love, not hate. I try show true compassion, and before this had goals of extreme heroism for mankind. This is real, non-fictional account, and I have wrote most of it with voice typing. I am in no way trying to frame it like a book for any reason other than to get info and point across in a timely manner. I hope it can be of use if needed, and also hope you don't need to. Take it seriously if possessed. No book in the world comes close. IV, almost lost. I need to get the message out and all my experience. I'm sorry if it's untidy, the message you can gather. Read multiple times so you get it all. I don't have time to make a full, well-written account, so need to use my voice here. This should be remembered as an account for generations. The human race is nothing real to go from. Promise. I write these words as a man on the edge. A man who has nearly lost his soul to forces I can scarcely comprehend. What you hold in your hands is not just a book. It's a desperate cry from someone who has faced the darkness and lived to tell the tale, barely. My name begins with a Z, and that's all I can share. Beyond that, I am bound by fears too great to name, for I do not wish to become the next Antichrist, nor do I wish to lose my soul. Other evidence to match in case is Jesus' statue hit by lightning on an important day to this author. This book is my attempt to reach out, to warn, to share the hidden truths of a battle few ever see but many unknowingly face. I'm compelled to write because no one else will, or perhaps because those who could have spoken are no longer able to. Their silence leaves me with no choice but to reveal what I've learned. I do this not for glory, obviously, not for recognition, but for the hope that someone, somewhere, might find a way to save themselves and that future generations have something to work from. In these pages, you will find my thoughts, my experiences, and the raw truth of my encounters with the unseen. This is not a polished account, nor is it free from the madness that has gripped my mind. But it is real, and it is necessary. For my protection, this book will be released anonymously in a form that cannot be traced back to me. I cannot risk the consequences, whether it be the final loss of my soul or the scrutiny of the public if I somehow manage to save it. Once these words are out in the world, they cannot be undone, and that's perhaps my only defense. If the demons could undo them, they would, and if I fail, then this may be the only testament to what I once was. Take these words and do with them what you will. Believe them, doubt them, or disregard them entirely. It is your choice. But know this, I have written them with the last fragments of my life, in the hope that someone might find a way out of the darkness before it consumes us all. I have been possessed for years, battling forces that seek to strip away my very essence. This book is the culmination of my experiences, thoughts, and revelations during this time. The journey has been harrowing, filled with moments of despair, confusion, and fleeting clarity. I am writing this not as a guide, but as a warning, a testament to what I have endured and what others might face. Here's what I will cover in this book. General goal of the demons, as it seems what they want to do to society, a long-term plan. General idea of losing one's soul. Symptoms I have faced. Dispelling falsehood. My experience since first stage to current stage of my possession. How my experience proved to me Crowley had lost his soul and experienced something rather similar. Lies against truth. The truth of religious defense in reality and or how it is in the human landscape. The biggest threats, according to my experience. What I'd change. Prevention. These points are in no particular order. They are simply the fragments of a mind struggling to make sense of the darkness. I hope that by sharing this, I might shed light on what is otherwise hidden in shadow. This book isn't perfect. I do not have all the time to do this. but I will try my best to finish it quickly and publish on many sites such as Reddit anonymously on a randomized account credential. I swear this is nothing but the truth. I worship God and also agree that there are 0 public true cases of possession. In fact, the Catholic Church think that the people telling the truth are liars. This is not their fault. People need to understand all the flaws of religion. People trying to prove it correct through lies, authority being sheep, so history ruins some stuff. Lack of social or political thinking through religion, lack of integration with mysticism and universally natural way of life in Western religion, and on and on. How rare is a real possession? Unsure, I know it's true they would think at first glance it was psychosis, and also true that all psychosis isn't possession. The entire occult Reddit from my last check didn't have a single real account, and the only one I see in history whom I know was actually once possessed is Crowley. I even have a similar unborn Awas, whom explicitly phonetically pronounced as I was. My experiences are extremely supernatural, and I know that I'm not someone with psychosis, even though this is also a spiritual phenomena, as we're in a dream, and modern science neglects spirit-psyche connection, though I don't doubt that this damage on my psyche could have caused it eventually. But I do doubt that most, if not all, psychosis patients aren't actually possessed, but those who are would be condemned as psychotic, so there's that. Personally, I don't see how it would go without a massive following trail of spiritual anarchy and antichrist nature like Crowley, and I don't see anyone as bone-chilling currently. If you haven't read Crowley, don't bother. It was a major factor leading to my possession, even though I didn't practice magic and weren't a fan. I remember seeing a demon for a second with my eyes closed and always questioned if I actually saw that. At this moment, years before my possession, it must have tagged me. This was whilst reading Crowley one of the few times I did. I later unlocked Sirak for immortality, had Hindu moksha in a dream, got arrested, then got possessed. Then they, during possession, performed something with an unborn, tricking me into thinking it was an IRL alien, asking me to help create a new species under the condition they allowed me to see the UFO, which was a trick to impregnate my mind. So never trust those things. Fake. Possessed by 3 demons. True. Unable to work. Real symptoms. Raped daily. Sodomized even while writing this. Gone off smelling semen on face. Smell of semen tissues with feeling they're forced into mouth, penises, penetration, fake blowjobs, boobs. Saliva. Even bones breaking under the skin. Nose busts. Teeth busts. Black eyes. Few weeks later, forcing myself to finish this as I feel I'll lose within a short period of time, I actually have them drinking my blood now, and this is before the real torture, which I know happens. Back burn, back jolts, thoughts causing almost collapses, symbols too, emotions, energy too, without logic. Third eye pressure, shit in head feeling, able to feel them forming things like penises in forehead. Seeing big black beady eyes and teeth with eyes closed, smelling blood, hearing what sounds like my childhood self cry for help from heart, fade feelings, tasting stuff like that, but not in loss of soul. It feels like degrading of mind force or something. Feeling demons' hands and stuff like that. I am probably guaranteed torture. I once almost lost, I think. Extreme pain, couldn't move for 3 days. Same day, the Jesus Christ statue was hit by lightning. 10.2. Maybe if there was an Antichrist, this date might hold some meaning in future. I have seen and been told what the torture would be like. It seems worse than IRL torture. I can't imagine with my current symptoms that I'd actually be able to get up afterwards, but apparently, so else Crowley. Would have been unknown. I don't want to scare anyone if you're possessed, just help you. I have no confirmation if it's worse than in real-life torture, but I do know it is guaranteed if I lose to be torture. It couldn't be otherwise. Early phase possession is a major help. If you don't allow fear to control action, this will be expanded upon later. They know you want to save your soul, so utilize this as leverage to trick you. Unlocking C for immortality. I was a philosopher, not a magician. This, in my opinion, began my immortal stage. I had moksha, as I also had an experience downloading what seemed to be a blue pyramid with sound in my mind's eye before my possession. Deva with red eye, like Eye of Ra, in my opinion. I think they both, good and bad, tagged me in a sense. And the Deva tried to help my immortality, and the demon's ruin. I do not expect this to be needed to become possessed, but what I do think is that the demons are acting like a snake to society and plan to hit among an upcoming Enlightenment era when half the society is already tagged by demons, stricken at their core, as they say. I hope this doesn't happen. I don't have any optimism for the human race to prevent this, so maybe there will be a cataclysm to prevent it. Who knows? I met one other on Reddit whom was actually possessed accidentally, post now deleted, and I think personally that I see in his one thing similar to mine, that he didn't deserve it. Nobody does really. But his friend tricked him into getting possessed, and I got possessed due to narcissistic abuse and arrest, bad subconscious osmosis ultimately combined with illumination. If you're out there, Jay, I hope all is well with you, and I prayed for you and tried to utilize my positive affirmation in lucidity for you. #chapter, The Descent. I'll do my best to walk you through what I experienced, from the beginning to where it all went wrong. This is the story of how I nearly lost everything, my freedom, my future, and even my soul. A few days before my arrest, I had a vivid dream. A god Deva performed what felt like moksha on me, a ritual meant to liberate one's soul. It felt significant, though I didn't fully understand its meaning at the time. Not long after, I was arrested, and my life unraveled from there. I was so close to escaping the toxic environment I was trapped in, but everything came crashing down. At that time, I was living with a narcissistic abuser. It's hard to summarize my life back then. I was young, male, and, though not a magician by trade, I was deeply enlightened. I'd had experiences that defied explanation, some spiritual, others terrifying. But the most crucial thing you need to understand is that I saw things, visions, as I have explained about the mind's eye demon. This was even likely an accidental glimpse due to reading audiobooks with eyes closed. I do not expect everyone to have had it. One day, I became consumed with anger that I could no longer contain. I opened a book, a so-called magic book on making money, emblazoned with a sigil that wasn't supposed to be demonic. But something in that moment felt off. I need to make this clear. Before my arrest, I was on the brink of becoming a millionaire, thanks to cryptocurrency. I wasn't a criminal, but I was desperate, trapped, and feeling like the universe was conspiring against me. Everything that should have gone right had gone wrong, and every decision I made seemed cursed by bad timing. In the depths of this despair, I had another dream. A demon offered to help me escape my situation. The offer was simple: let it into my mind, and it would help me move out. In my non-aware unconscious state, I agreed, but with one condition: I wouldn't sell my soul. Upon waking, the gravity of what I'd done hit me like a tidal wave. Was I actually possessed? At first, it wasn't clear, but soon enough, it became undeniable. I had a friend, someone I trusted, who had sold me a laptop after my arrest when I finally saw him again. He confessed and later retracted as a joke to me he had done some criminal activities himself that would have been jail time for me. I was already trapped in a web of narcissistic abuse, now with 3 demons tormenting me, and the looming fear that the police would find his incriminating stuff on my laptop that wasn't mine. My mental strength, which I had relied on for so long, was crumbling. I was paralyzed by the thought of being condemned for something I didn't do. Every night, I dreamed. These dreams felt like premonitions, showing me what would happen in the real world. I believed them, and that belief became my undoing. I went through what I can only describe as a ritual of torment. I was awake, hearing voices in my mind, and seeing visions that lied to me. Real-world events seemed to confirm these visions, driving me further into madness. For instance, I had a dream that I was being surveilled through my computer. In my waking life, I was so convinced of this that I actually reached out to the police on Discord thinking they could see what I typed in notes, asking them to park outside my house so I could explain everything. Moments later, I heard my abuser outside my room, commenting on a police car parked nearby. My heart sank. I was certain they were there for me, yet they drove away. I became paranoid, thinking I was being targeted by drug dealers who wanted to rob me for money. I didn't do drugs. I was just a young, intelligent guy who had been making money since childhood. The paranoia reached a peak when my sister left for 3 days. I was convinced someone would try to break in, and sure enough, they did. But these people had no idea who I was, nor did they find anything of value. It was surreal, like my nightmares were bleeding into reality. I want to make it very clear they kicked the door down and then run off. It was just some kids. I know for a fact that none of those drug dealers were capable of hacking my computer, and they were after me because I very clearly had no money. I have come to realize this. All of those dreams were complete horseshit. I want to make it explicitly clear now, if anyone is possessed and going through what I have, if they are at this stage, I remember how terrible an impact this was having on my life and how much I wished to just be liberated. But if only I knew that all of my oppressors, other than the demons, were more or less illusory, I could have broken this cycle and gone on to become a millionaire and gone down the path I was supposed to. And yet, I practically just let the demons ruin my life. This expand into a lot more, so please keep reading. If it ain't said to your face, it ain't fucking happening. Over the next 4 years, I faced no physical threats, but the threats in my dreams persisted. I began to believe I was being surveilled, not just by the police, but by the Secret Service or even drug dealers. My dreams convinced me that everyone was out to frame me because of what my friend had done. He later claimed it was a joke, but I never knew what to believe. The dreams, combined with the astral magic I experienced, made it seem like my devices were being manipulated by some extraterrestrial supercomputer. This is because I would actually have things happen on my devices, and it often went off thoughts there is some form of astrological significance or astral significance to this, and they do not have outright power to do. Anything on any of your devices, it seems it's more like inputs of words, but never sending messages. Perhaps the force of God stops them. Perhaps the force of your mind does. It has been 4 years, and I've almost lost and not. Once have they been able to physically on my devices frame me or anything, but I can tell you for certain it is not human. Despite all this, nothing ever fully incriminated me in the real world. The demons could not frame me, no matter how hard they tried. It was as if there was a barrier preventing them from fully manifesting their evil in my life. But the damage was done. I was convinced that I was being framed by everyone: police, the Secret Service, drug dealers. The paranoia was overwhelming. Looking back, I realized that if I hadn't been possessed, I would have continued on my path to becoming a millionaire and a successful businessman. But the possession changed everything. It steered me off course, away from my goals, and nearly cost me my soul. In the end, it wasn't what I did that led me to the brink. It was what I didn't do. Partly. Essentially, they would make up people and act in my mind as torment, and I believed that I was almost hearing what other people thought or what other people would do, or having insight into the people who were framing me, because everybody would play along symbolically in their action, acting like they are trying to rob me, act like they are trying to frame me. But if you were to ever bring this up to them, they would be in a realm of shock, confused as to what the hell you. We're talking about this is primarily because you were also lucid during this phase, at least I was. And that is because, in my opinion, they need you to be heading towards immortality to be able to correctly entrap your soul. There is some confusion still. I still believe that people who acted like that, we had spiritual ill intent, but they couldn't do anything physically. Because I was believing all of the dreams and lies, and because people were playing along, I was essentially being ritualized in my psyche, and also having what seemed like the world ritualized, and all of this seemed normal too. Me, that this could be the case, had thought about that too, but there is nothing I could do due to the evidence. Yet it turns out after 4 years, not one of the things I worried about, not one ended up being true, and all it did was seemingly try to entrap my soul and ritualize me to get the demons into further state of possession. So here's one of the biggest tips I have: do not change. I do believe that you should not jack off. This should all come clear as we go on, and I do believe you should pray to God, but do not be caring what fake people think or fake people say they are demons acting. Just be yourself. I had to care about people being jealous of me. I had to care. I had to act in a way where nobody could be jealous because I thought they'd frame me because they're jealous. I was told I had lost self-esteem by the demons acting like others, yet in reality, if this was true, it would have been them, since I had to wait like I didn't know anything. They were acting like they were trying to rob me. I was praised for giving up things that would have made me money. All of the obvious things and all my mind cared about was not being framed and getting off of the police case and keeping my soul forever. It is absolutely true. I would fight to death to save my fortune, but I thought I was being the smart guy, not the weakling. I thought I'd get off the police case, get rid of these people, and never get framed. Get rid of the demons, and then go on to be a millionaire afterwards. Yeah, this is not exactly how it worked, because nobody was doing anything to me. I have to say, a key moment, I had multiple visions of aliens, green aliens, with my eyes closed, and I thought they were real. I thought they were trying to help me off of the police case. And on the day I was supposed to be let off of this, they asked in return if I could help them by creating a new species, and I thought they were real. And I asked, only if I get to see inside the UFO and remember it, and yet I never went into any UFO. They just show me a dream what UFO looks like. And this is the moment I know they created what is the Aiwass, the unborn vessel. And I believe, ultimately, that when we read Hinduism and they say you get moksha, and you read Google, and it tells you they create your immortality, but perhaps because we are the only one here, they are creating the entire universe, which is a very sad idea. As we move on, we have a personal astral, and it isn't clear that there is any separation. As you are truly someone who is Solops, you are completely alone, which I have proved to myself if there is. Anybody else, they must also alone in some weird paradox. Well, this moves on to those aliens that are the unborn. I believe all those lies, fake dreams, and all the acting was really actually trying to create the unborn to entrap me. I have seen very clear similarities, and some of the things Crowley has written, such as his story Moonchild, which is very clearly detailing extreme detail, similar to that of which I have endured. You see, now I hear what sounds like my younger self crying. Crowley said his mind was impregnated, and I am assuming this is what he was talking about. Other than this, in Moonchild is about dark forces trying to use the Moonchild power, and this goes into the next part of the equation. Everybody who is acting like they are robbing you and playing along are the people who are trying to use the Moonchild power, which is not told to you until later. In my instance, Crowley also wrote The Problem of Genius. Existing inside an idiot, not that God is an idiot, but his immortality was made to be that of someone who knows nothing, retard. And this would have made the universe feel to Crowley like it is no longer real, like it is fake, because 1 + 1 should equal 2. And not 0, but at my current stage, it's been 4 years, and for the latter part of the last few months or year, what must has been, other than my symptoms, since I cannot really even going into public areas anymore. It seems if I weren't possessed, I would have ended up like the Royals or the Rothschild, not that I am saying they are immortal by any means. But the Blue Devas are royalty, leading back to the pharaohs in their immortal Egyptian culture. But I believe my philosopher's stone, if we call it that, would have understood that everything I care about, such as making money, the people who are good at such things are the people that know what they are doing. For example, Elon Musk or Larry Fink, but people who've never made a dime don't, but the demons in their acting and throughout this entire ritual had people look like they were robbing. And they also used to inferiorize by say that I couldn't be a good suit because I'm not like this guy whom they picked specifically because he was terrible. And I feel like the universe wants to have proper functioning in the unconscious space of the collective, whereas if I weren't possessed, it would have to the point where 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2 anymore. Now Crowley complained about genius, the problem of genius, in his book Moonchild, which in my opinion is a symbolical representation of how he lost his soul. You feel they changed how universe acts to block everything you need by tricking you into giving everything up in your mind ritualized. This isn't non-possession, good spiritual practice like we'd have hoped if they're tricking your mind. Though I personally believe if I could have afforded it, moving to India and renouncing the material would have helped, but I think I'd love the life, but it has its vulnerabilities, as I said. Anything does. You have to understand they're in your mind. That's why. I once had the Babylon deity me not to go out with my friend's early possession phase, who may believe to be the God of Israel, and yet I accidentally did, and I thought that they were trying to rob me, and they were in the group. Chat acting like such and acting like they didn't care and acting like too. And everyone, all those fake actors, and I also had the demons acting like the gods with a very realistic, with evidence narrative going on that the gods actually do not care about anything other than sacrifices and want to keep the human race lost, and I should have been killed so they don't have a powerful good person. I do not believe this is the case. The demons are really good at acting, and evidence changes when you get to this stage of the occult. But essentially, the general of you here is, it's not what I did. It's what I didn't if I'd done everything I wanted to be being a correct guard to my mind, which is difficult. But it's made especially a lot easier as to how you react to events in the real world and what you were doing in the real world. I could not have had the problems I'm having right now. And this is partly the main point. I have to say, other than the second point, is that early on, if we break this down into phases, first stage was to trick me into being delusional and make me go along with all the stories so they could ritualize me through hypnosis, essentially to make me feel like I'm being framed by people, to make me feel like those. People are trying to rob me scenarios that make sense, even when I have no money, to make it feel like those people are judging me. To make it feel like there is only one specific way that I could get those people off of me, they would utilize my religion against me. I'm sorry, but it's true. You have to be authoritative. This is not ancient Israel. You cannot simply go out and build yourself a log cabin. You cannot just escape the world. I love religion, but it was made and written for sheep. You, as seer, what the ancients would have called a prophet if you tried. So you should be authoritative enough to take your own advice, but not do needless sin. I am telling you the truth. It's just not sin. If it's logically in self-defense, you can think absolutely instead of relatively. Don't feel guilty. They understand vulnerabilities of all negative and positive things. Each positive emotion and trait has its vulnerabilities, and they simply utilize them. The God of Israel would have sent people off to war, so you should not feel bad acting in self-defense. This is the problem with religion. In this phase of possession, you shouldn't be harming people that do anything to you. But you shouldn't be refrained from asking them anything, which the demons make really good excuses as to why. You should not say anything to them, such as you're putting yourself in a position where it looks like you're guilty. You should always aim to know the truth, despite how hard it seems at the time. I don't know what anyone's scenario could be, so you have to make your own choice. But I want to make it very clear here. I had all the evidence, and it was wrong, but I go to the conclusion that it would be justified to kill people physically in order to get a simple amount of money. To live alone, this is how serious it is. You must live alone. You must, unless there is absolutely zero problem with you having positive osmosis where you were living. It makes me resent the world as it looks like everybody just wanted to utilize my absolution for their own gain when they don't know anything. And this has ruined the way the collective mind works for me, but nobody else. But I don't necessarily believe this is true more than I believe that I am somehow oppressed by dark forces that make this look true. I can't believe it's true. It would mean I'd have to kill myself. And if I kill myself, I'm probably guaranteed torture in hell on the other side. I want to make this abundantly clear as many times as I can. It's not what I did. It's what I did pertaining to this part of the explanation. I did also get shown prices of cryptocurrency coins and dreams, but I wouldn't dare. And I probably recommend you also don't, even though I believe right now that I would have been fine. And I am looking at this and thinking to myself that the only reason they did that is to create an illusion that I can't make money. Normally, I was very concerned about my ego and try to do things that would give me good heart chakra. It sounds like it should have been the correct choice, but it weren't, because the universe required me to have some sense of responsibility. I was 21 years old. I have made money since I was a kid, so I couldn't relate to anything other than making money since before 15. I'd taken up some sports early stage. It's to try this, and I got tricked by my own religion and synchronic events into thinking that I should train for the military. Yet when I was a child, I adored the military and the sports such as parkour. Let me be clear here. Sorry for the writing through voice. Right now, it's been weeks and I'm on a sofa always drug addicts in the other room. I don't even do drugs. I'm highly intelligent and it's the only place I can be. My father's too ill. I'm getting many symptoms which make me feel close, so I'm finishing this today and getting it uploaded. The above and below of this text should be understood and read multiple times by the possessed. Understand what I've gone through. It will help. But don't think the demons aren't smart. They look for vulnerabilities in any area. Use your own initiative and all you learn from me. One vulnerability could be your lack of trust in my statements. They may feel they have grasp over you. You may feel this wouldn't have felt authentic prior possession for a reason. People probably aren't that evil, all these tormenting acting voices. I'm misunderstanding if they grep searched an astral for energetic or something similarities to the acting voices, or form these in some form as lifeless vessels or something astrally. All I can say, to some extent, it eventually becomes a war of personality, and you feel bound to accept certain things. They gaslight in weird ways. Maybe you should think like that early enough to realize that them putting you on another path, fake judging you and all of this stuff, are just them sheep herding in your psyche. They would ultimately probably try make these voices like you. Think of it as you're not listening to others, but simply torment even when the world plays along. I promise to the majority of extent, it's only playing along in illusory symbolism other than the odd clairvoyance, largely due to demons knowing what would actually happen before it does, even if they're lying. So the trick largely is fooling you to, even without your consent, interpreting things differently, going down a different life path, etc., acting in ways you wouldn't. The more true to yourself you're being, the less likely they gain power. This should be obvious, and it is. But nobody understands really what outwitting the devil is like until you're trying. I felt I had no choice, so what I needed then was to see through the illusion, not allow religion to gaslight me or anything else. You must understand the demons will act and try and project into the world fake messages from God. There is a huge communication barrier in religion. You cannot rely on it for that. You must take it into your own hands, but pray and don't sin unless you needed money to move or something. Osmosis greater than others would have saved my life. It's great for the heart and soul and needed. They will try help, but you cannot lie about the nature of reality and having a demon in your mind. I hope you understand what I've written and how it's largely making you go off path that gets you. There is more to the story though, so let's begin. Women, or men if that's your way. They would show me dreams of me and a woman and a giant story I'm not exactly going to detail other than said women was, realistically, stalking me. Which I believe, by the way, due to evidence. I'm a soft lover at heart, but a strong-minded man. I cared a lot about capitalism, and they gaslit me with romance after my possession, and made it feel like God was sending this to help me in a way, partially not. Multiple women in this story. But OFC, the demons, were acting like women, and that was why. This is perhaps the biggest regret I have. I would get dreams saying jacking off could kill me, but it was always questionable. How could it? It never harmed me. But I tried my best. But the point is, the demons ritualized my possession, forced me into isolation. In my opinion, helped this personality battle more since you feel the world is within. And one day when I jacked off, I suddenly felt something I shouldn't, like another body beneath me. And this is the demon which can take form of practically anything. This started the physical symptom phase. IDV probably avoided it if I didn't believe any of this stuff or act upon it. Example, said women liked military men. And I thought God was telling me to leave weight off the great capitalist self for the women, which, to be honest, maybe would have even been a good match. I'd be more of a dictator. Me acting on this helped the ritual. Ultimately, I quit porn, and all sexuality, I'm almost 2 wires clean, and IV had symptoms the entire time only get worse. If I never did watch it, I feel the only other way they could have introduced upon me by somehow breaking through, like, that is some form of terrible violence or something. But IDK, I'm at fault and not, it's a singularity, so I forgive myself. About the singularity, a common complaint, it seems nothing matters except positive versus negative. That I do the correct things wrong time, vice versa. Please, if you're reading this first stage or early, don't overthink this and instead utilize it by doing affirmations all day. We're talking literally saving you from torture. I did lots of all-day affirmations far too late. You're telling the dream more positive stuff through seemingly more powerful vocal word than tormented thought. I promise. This I wish I did. The better races than us probably would utilize hypnosis unless they had some great fucking medical care. Please note. Back to, look at the singularity as even helping the forces that move you to do the correct thing, like in my instance. Please utilize affirmations all day. You get tormented all day. Something like, I'm guaranteed to keep my soul forever, from the beginning, even if it's under your voice. All day becomes easy. By the way, just note, I don't have evidence. I just wish I did. The reason being that I see evidence of the singularity even as far as my family representing the force of entrapment. Everything. Don't get too caught up in the material world. Understand it's mainly all deception in your head. Your material world, unless you're under persecution, is basically probably the exact same as it was without delusion. You may have some problems because demons create them before your possession. But if it ain't in front of you, call it BS. Please keep open-ended convo and thinking on all Ivy said. I'm at end stages. I want this to serve humanity, and if I become the Antichrist, I would call anyone who spreads this heroes. You could save your grandchildren from this great plan of the demons. I have tried. I'm silenced. I hope so much that you understand who this is if I lose. I truly love you all. I don't forgive the human race, but I do forgive the individual. Just not some people that I knew in real life. Think of your grandchildren. If you see me as an Antichrist, how different I'm talking, how desperate it seems I am here to get the message out there. Thankfully, we have the internet. One trap in common with Crowley I forgot to mention is isolation. They isolate you and make you think it's for the best. I could have kept all my friends and hung around them non-alcoholic and been fine for the most part, besides the ritual I mentioned, even if they were unaware. This would have worked, probably because I was unaware by the way the romance was to frame the demons as a woman, and frame me as getting that woman. Also, to seemingly ritualize the love from past relationships leading back to childhood to help. The ritualized childhood purity. I see this based on their use of archetypal, etc., calling said women by last names I have dated, etc. when young. I would have misinterpreted many dreams. Understand they're sent by demons mainly, but to understand them you sometimes see what they mean if they're trying to hypnotize. Example, me collapsing at McDonald's, then being taken by military men strapped to a chair as though possessed. It's symbolic for me having done the wrong thing. And another example, me in my high school with other PPL. This can either be learning something symbolically, or they're literally trying to ritualize your childhood based off much of the context. Don't resent the gods. The demons are good at acting and causing fake evidence. It caused me much grief to contemplate whether I was being tossed aside to prevent global awakening. This would be opposite to what the Devas would want, and surely Israel too. Devas have moksha. They'd want people to believe in attainment of immortality, even the Egyptian Devas too. Which, by the way, aren't linked to Crowley in any way. Good beings, light beings. Israel, we don't understand the origin of Adam and Eve's story very well. Whom wrote it? Did they believe Israel, Babylon deity, was the universal Godhead rather than polytheistic? Maybe then they'd write in such a way. IV had a few problems with this story, but ultimately he said Adam had to stick to the tree of life, which is exactly what I'm trying alive. They say one of us, so they surely the writers understood plural deities of Babylon. We could question if it's a warning. The one flaw of Abrahamic faith is lack of samsara and moksha, etc. I am Abrahamic in faith too, but polytheistic is the real truth. I don't believe Israel would have wanted to silence me either. I'd have willingly been a prophet for his religion, but just included universals. The truth is, the tree is dangerous, and we should be following a set path. Hinduism held this light, and Buddhism, and I have much adoration and respect for all. I held my integrity and loyalty into the end, and I had lots of reasons to believe I was being oppressed. But it became heavily obvious to some extent that they wouldn't. If I lose, I'm just going to be an antichrist. They could have never benefited from this. Surely. Don't underestimate how dumb we are. Demons, they're smart. I have tried my best to include everything, and I beg the possessed to read all the time so you don't miss the main points. Utilize Jungian visualization early, but do not under any circumstance practice shadow integration with a demon in your mind. It's not the cause of lucidity, and will not stop projections, but ruin progress. I blame this largely for my jerking off causing symptoms. These visualizations may help combat stuff they're trying if no shadow integration. Another complaint I had is you don't decide your fate in wires of possession, cuss, of the ritual force nature. And I, from my recollection, think I read Crowley describe something similar in Moonchild or his biography. For governments or anything, the Catholic Church needs to act like a social and political hierarchy and have at the top of this pyramid, not a priest, but an actual immortal seer. One we'd call a prophet-able mind. Have this person as the voice of the world religion, authentic non-tribal, and an influencer, political and social. The current state of the church keeps mankind dumb. We must be able to fight against these situations. We cannot ignore spiritual truths. It's more than prayer. Each and every human should be able to live alone without a job, unless it's, for example, tending to a community plant grow. And I'm a capitalist, not a damn socialist too. The Great Reset seems to be heading in a decent direction due to overpopulation. We can't have more than 500 meters hunting, etc. We need off-grid places of sorts that are self-sustaining. The problem with it, in my opinion, is how many can do this for free without need of money. We shall see. And I don't think there's emphasis in the world on spirituality enough. At all. I like the Great Reset, but to me it holds a further virtue in the spiritual state of man. To live alone is the biggest preventative measure of possession, even if it's a simple small flat apartment in the mass of many. It's alone. The problem is other people. Everyone should have this, or we're better off with a cataclysm. Which is likely the intention of this omnipresent story speaking back in time. The truth is, we normalize mental health because humanity only has to deal with matter. The grandchildren will have to care for spirit. I don't forgive mankind for this or what happened to me. It's actually extremely dangerous to be mentally ill and enlightened. At least my evidence shows of early stage enlightenment. Abrahamic faith, utilizing some of Hindu universals, would be nice. Astral psyche connections need to be known to men. Light, dark of the mind equal to spirit to a degree, not always literal, hence possession, but we must protect this. People should be taught how from an early age. Compassion, etc. The importance of the light of the mind and osmosis lead into spiritual health. Reunited with nature and freedom for all people. I'd say the same as a billionaire. No selfishness in spirituality. We need to abolish religious tribalism. If only this message got to the Catholic Church if I became the Antichrist. A unity of religion of sorts isn't Antichrist. It's honest. You need to recognize what's universal and what isn't. Know your origins are Babylon. We're all polytheistic, and there are universals. Example, the importance of the sun, those healing rays that maintain life. The light that rules the day, the moon that rules the night. This is a dream. Abolish tribalism. In Islam, it says, respect others' gods. I say this is so important because upon the growth of religion stems a terrible problem, maintaining true universal order. Our religion isn't perfect, and I promise communication with God literally is difficult. I am the most enlightened man on earth. It is. The light of the mind and how to live a spiritual life outside of prayer is what we should establish. All these religious people should get alone, unless one is a Satanist and one is an atheist. You actually show too much mercy. Show mercy instead for your offspring and their offspring. Immortals should beg the one to dictate what literature is banned, not mortals. This is a problem caused by tribalism. People can take matters into their own hands, suppressing voices of those who know more. We shouldn't ban mysticism, Hermeticism, alchemy, Hinduism. Hermetica is keeping the light of ancient philosophy alive. We shouldn't ban Gnosticism, but we should ban magic. Unless it's something like the pyramid texts. If we ever allowed any of those books, it would be very few. We should allow astrology, for example, and the pyramid texts. But much, if not all, should be banned. And all the occult communities may disagree, not possessed or enlightened, but while they may be correct, magic isn't necessarily always bad. They're incorrect that they're completely safe having this interest. The reason is the lack of discernment and the fact demons actually target you and the whole opening yourself up phrase. Isn't horseshit. In my opinion, this relies on specific things such as being stricken at the soul by reading, or extremely bad mental health combined with enlightenment. Please don't allow my soul to be lost without listening to what I planned whilst alive in case I became the Antichrist. Philosophy, etc. We need that. Mysticism too. You know this has been a part of Hinduism since its origin. Magic isn't evil. True. Doing a ritual doesn't make you evil. It's a dream, but it's the most dangerous thing to mankind. And some magic is evil. Lots of deception. I have seen human nature. They're terrible at discernment. Emo. Enlightenment is guaranteed for this society, and you need to heed my words before we get there. Maybe you make this whole revelation thing easier. They need responsible governors. We must, at whatever it takes, get a spiritual way of life for anyone who chooses it. Needing to work a job outside of the natural order, like farming, etc., helping community that way isn't. Paying for a home isn't either. This is a terrible thing. It's not hard to build one. Nature knows. It's June 9th, 2024. As I finish this, I'm going to upload under various titles and ask people who read this to see the authenticity and help spread. Look for me in the future and do as I asked. You may help save mankind. Know the ripple effect. Ivy tried my best. I will go through probably the worst torture. I am terribly frightened. But as much as I don't forgive man, I do hold much love and feel a great duty to provide what Ivy learned here.